It's wonderful to be here at the 52nd annual gathering of the Congressional Black Caucus, which has really turned into a who's who of leadership in Washington, the United States, and internationally. And it's just thrilling to be here, the former United States Senator, with my good friend Kendrick Meek, who served 4 terms in the Congress of the United States from Florida, and the chairman of the Black Caucus, Steven Horsford from Nevada. And we're going to just chat for a few minutes about the importance of this all-of-the-above strategy for energy in our country, why it's important for affordability and reliability for people everywhere, but most certainly for Black Caucus members and for the constituents that many of the Black Caucus members represent all over this country, from more rural states like Nevada to more populous states, like Florida. So, Congressman, tell us why you stepped into the leadership role of Natural Allies, and why do you think it's important, and what are some of the messages that you've been sharing with your friends and former constituents?
It's a special time in our country. I mean, we've talked about infrastructure, we've talked about going to clean burning energy, and now we're here. And so I'm excited to be here with Chairman Horsford to talk about some of those things, and excited to be a part of the Natural Allies family of going around the country talking to leaders about decisions that have to be made now that's going to be transitional for communities, especially communities of color, not just blue collar jobs, but also investment. And the last time we've been at this stage, it was FDR many years ago. And communities of color, and especially urban communities, are different now and led differently. And it presents a great opportunity. So I look forward to being a part of that very positive, forward-leading discussion, make those communities stronger, but at the same time make our country stronger, because there's an export opportunity here too.
Well, it's an excellent opportunity for new jobs, new energy economy. How do you, Mr. Chairman, speak about it in Nevada, in your district, but then also here in Washington?
Well, Senator, it's great to have you. Good to have my good friend, Congressman Meek, who serves on the board for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation and was one of the previous chairs for the CBCF Board of Directors. So this is a big part of his legacy that continues to grow. The Congressional Black Caucus now, we represent 58 members from every region of the country. We're the largest that we've been in our history. When we elect Gabe Amo in Rhode Island, we'll be at 59 and by the end of this year, and I'm shooting for plus 60 by the end of next year. But the focus is really on economic mobility. It's on wealth creation. It's on meeting people where they are through job creation. One of the biggest costs that a household has, that a small business has, is related to their energy cost. And so I know from my own standpoint in Nevada, it's about helping make sure people know the resources that are available, the different energy options that are available to them. And in Nevada, we rely on kind of an above-all approach to energy, with natural gas being a key element, along with renewable energy, because we understand the balance of the two going forward.
Well, one of the reasons I got so involved, as Congressman Meeks knows, and I've shared with you in Natural Allies, is exactly that you can absolutely be for natural gas and for renewables. In fact, there's a real marriage that's kind of required between renewables and natural gas, because as you know, solar, the sun doesn't shine every day and every hour, the wind doesn't blow every hour or everywhere, and you've got to have that backup. And so we're so blessed in the United States to have 200 years of supply of natural gas, and the industry itself, led by many people that support this coalition, are committed to fugitive methane reductions, tightening up our pipelines, producing it in a more sustainable and cleaner way. And in fact, it's responsible for 60% of the reductions. And I don't think our Democrats know that. Do you think that we should be a little stronger maybe in our messaging to everyone, but to Democrats particularly?
Well, I love the name Natural Allies, because we are natural allies. And working with members of the Congressional Black Caucus and the larger Democratic caucus, I think there are always more opportunities to better understand the benefits and the need to have balanced policies. Look, I focus on three things from an economic standpoint: jobs, small business, and economic impact. That's what my constituents demand of me in Nevada. But yes, we do have a climate crisis, and that is why the legislation that's been passed under President Biden and Vice President Harris is all about making the largest investment of any country in the world. But that doesn't mean we're going to convert to it overnight without the technologies, without the advancements, without the infrastructure. That's why it's important to have natural gas as a reliable energy resource, in addition to the fact that it provides a ton of jobs and good paying jobs, union jobs that really do benefit the communities, particularly rural areas. My district covers 50,000 square miles. So I have very remote rural areas as well as a part of Las Vegas. And people may only pay attention to the bright lights of Las Vegas, but I have a lot of frontier counties that are depending on natural gas as the primary source of their energy. And that's why we have to have an all of the above approach when it comes to energy.
Well, we're so grateful for your leadership, and Kendrick, yours, because we have a message to tell and to share. And you can't just leave things in the ground, and you can't stop building. We have to build our way to a bright and prosperous future. And that is, I think, what President Biden's been saying. I think that's what he's been saying about the need for permitting reform and building more pipelines. Of course, working with the communities everywhere, rural and suburban and urban, but building more pipelines, building more transmission lines, which is essential for the wind, the electricity to move, and from the solar and wind where it can be generated to where we need it to our population centers.
I'm the sponsor of the transmission infrastructure tax credit.
Well, tell us about that for just a minute. What is that? Yeah.
So we talk a lot about the energy sources, the sources of energy, but as you just noted, you have to be able to get the energy from where it's produced to the end user, and you need transmission to do that. And unfortunately, we have not done enough to maintain our transmission infrastructure. So my bill would provide a tax credit to the utilities that are providing the development of those that transmission infrastructure to be able to bring whether it's natural gas, whether it's solar, whether it's geothermal, to the grid so that we can get it to the end users. This is about making sure that consumers, and I'd learned this, I didn't know this, incumbent utility providers, they actually have to pass the savings of those tax credits onto the consumer, which means this is not something that companies get to keep as a tax credit like they do for other industries. This is something that goes directly to helping lower the cost of energy to consumers. Also, it's about the jobs. I have a green link that's being built. It's a transmission line throughout the eastern part of my district. The amount of jobs that are being created through that transmission line are incredible. And again, most of those jobs are in the trades and they're in remote areas where the economic development is really based in transmission development.
I had an opportunity to sit into some of the discussions that the chairman has had here at this legislative conference. And yesterday he had a conversation with leaders, with mayors, with members of the legislature, and they're working together on sharing information all the way from voting to energy to environment and what have you. But Mr. Chairman, as we look at this opportunity, and mainly delivered by members of the Congressional Black Caucus pushing for this federal commitment that we're into now, what kind of forward lean will the CBC be taking to make sure that we get out to some of these, not only urban, but all rural areas? A lot of people think that Congressional Black Caucus members are representing just these urban areas, but they're not, in some rural areas too, and some supermajority white areas. Can you talk a little bit about how y'all are going to carry this message out to those leaders? Because there's regulators also that's going to have to be a part of the discussion of expanding the natural gas experience to communities that don't have it now, to be able to allow us to create some of these jobs that we talked about and opportunities.
Well, it's interesting. So, our job in Congress, as you know, is to pass the federal legislation, which is really the blueprint for how state and local governments then implement that, especially through the regulatory structures, whether that be with FERC or the Public Utilities Commission. But we're partners. We cannot do any of this alone, which is why we do need to consult so that we don't insult, and also get input into what individual local communities actually need when we are developing and passing legislation. Sometimes there are unintended consequences because we haven't been more intentional about including those voices. Under the Congressional Black Caucus and here at the ALC, we're being very intentional about making sure that we're listening to how the bills that we passed are getting implemented and what some of the challenges are. For example, you have local mayors who don't have enough operating capital to submit a grant from the Department of Energy. Well, that wasn't our intent. So now we have to figure out a way for them to build cooperatives or consortiums through local government to help meet that infrastructure need, whether it be on a water line or a sewer line or a transmission line. And these are the types of very specific things that we are talking about. Why? Because it's about improving the quality of life of the people we represent in both rural and urban areas. Yes, it's about lowering cost. Yes, it's about creating jobs. But as I said, we all use energy every day, and more we're dependent on it and reliant on it. And so we have to make sure that it's secure. We have to talk about the security of our energy grid. We have to make sure that it's sustainable, and we have to make sure it's resilient. I think that's the last thing I maybe want to point to is with the disasters that we've seen, from the hurricanes to the tornadoes. In my state, it's wildfires. I just had a huge flood that came through. The hurricane didn't hit California. It ended up hitting Nevada, and part of my district got completely flooded. And so now I'm working with that area. It's a more rural part of my district to help them rebuild their infrastructure. They don't have power. They don't have water. Their roads were destroyed. And this is a very small community compared to some of the communities that were devastated after things like Hurricane Katrina and others.
But they're still important, no matter how small or medium or large they are. When it's your home destroyed, your business, it's important. So natural gas is that bridge, that marriage between renewables. It gives us resiliency, affordability, and it opens up jobs and economic opportunities. So thank you both so much for being a part of this team.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And Natural Allies for a Clean Energy Future.org is our website. So join us, and we thank you so much for listening in today.